No one noticed the quiet nurse standing in the corner. Doctors laughed. Interns whispered. They called her the new one, the kind you ignore. Then the doors burst open. A wounded SEAL captain was rushed in, bleeding, barely conscious. The room went silent because the moment he saw her, he tried to sit up, ignored his injuries, and raised his hand in a salute that froze the entire hospital. That's when everyone realized they weren't laughing at a nobody. They had just mocked the wrong nurse. The night shift at Mercy General Hospital always felt heavier than the day. Lights dimmed, hallways stretched longer, every sound echoed louder than it should. That's when she worked, the quiet nurse. No one remembered when she started. Some thought she was new, others assumed she was temporary. A few doctors didn't even know her name. She wore the same plain scrubs as everyone else, hair tied back, no makeup, no jewelry, no small talk. She showed up early, left late, did her work without asking for credit. And most nights, that made her invisible. "Hey, newbie, grab the mop." One of the interns laughed as he passed her near the nurse's station. She didn't respond, just nodded once and kept moving. A senior doctor smirked. "She doesn't talk much, does she? Probably scared," another replied. They chuckled and went back to their charts. She kept walking. The floor near the emergency entrance needed cleaning. Bloodstains, scuffed footprints, the usual aftermath of chaos. She pushed the broom slowly, methodically, like every movement had purpose. But what none of them noticed was how alert she was. Her eyes never stopped scanning. Her posture never slouched. Her breathing stayed calm, controlled, not the kind you learned in nursing school. The ER doors slid open again. Another patient, another emergency. Doctors rushed past her without a glance, until the paramedic shouted, "Incoming trauma. Male, early 30s, gunshot wound, massive blood loss." The tone changed instantly. Stretchers rolled, nurses ran, monitors beeped louder. "She's in the way," someone muttered as the quiet nurse stepped back toward the wall. She pressed herself aside, hands folded in front of her, eyes locked on the stretcher as it came through the doors. That's when she saw him. Even unconscious, there was something different about this patient. Broad shoulders, rigid frame, muscle memory etched into his posture even while bleeding. A black tactical watch still strapped to his wrist, military grade. His uniform jacket had been cut away, but the marks were unmistakable, the kind you don't earn unless you've been somewhere most people never go. "SEAL," one of the paramedics whispered under his breath. The room tightened. A Navy SEAL captain, wounded, fading. Doctors surrounded the stretcher immediately. Vitals, dropping. Prep the OR, now. The quiet nurse didn't move. She stood perfectly still against the wall, watching everything. The way the captain's chest struggled to rise, the way his hand twitched near the edge of the bed, the way his jaw clenched even through the pain. She noticed something else too. His eyes. They fluttered open for just a second, confused, dazed, searching. Most people in that state look scared. He didn't. He looked alert, like a man waking up in unfamiliar territory, already assessing threats. As the stretcher rolled past her, his gaze locked onto hers, just for a heartbeat. The effect was instant. His breathing hitched, his fingers tightened against the sheet, his eyes widened, not in fear, in recognition. The nurse felt it too. A flash of something unspoken passed between them, something heavy, something old. Then he was gone, rushed through the doors toward surgery. The hallway exhaled. Doctors resumed their rhythm. Orders barked. Shoes squeaked against tile. Someone scoffed. "Hope he makes it." Another replied, "He's tough." Military types always are. The quiet nurse turned back to her broom, but her hands were shaking now, just slightly. She closed her eyes for half a second, took a slow breath, in through the nose, out through the mouth. The shaking stopped. Across the hall, two doctors leaned against the counter. "Did you see her staring?" one said, nodding toward the nurse. Yeah, the other laughed. Probably never seen a real soldier before. They didn't lower their voices. She's been weird since she got here, the first added. Doesn't talk, doesn't joke, just watches. Give it a week, the second replied. She'll quit like the rest. The nurse finished cleaning the floor and quietly returned the broom. She passed the nurse's station again. Still no one called her name. Still no one asked for help. Still no one knew who she really was. She stopped near the waiting room doors. Through the glass, she could see flashing lights outside. Military vehicles pulling into the hospital lot. One, then two, then more. Men in uniform stepped out, moving fast, purposeful, controlled, not panicked, trained. Her jaw tightened. She turned away before anyone noticed her watching. Back inside, alarms began to sound from the operating wing. A voice shouted, "We're losing him." Doctors rushed. Nurses sprinted. The quiet nurse didn't move. She stood still in the hallway as chaos unfolded around her, waiting, because she knew something no one else in that hospital knew yet. This wasn't just another wounded soldier, and she wasn't just another nurse. And when the moment came, when the SEAL captain woke up fully, everything in this hospital was about to change. The operating room lights burned white. Machines hummed. Monitors beeped in sharp, impatient rhythms. Pressure's still dropping. Suction now. Clamp it. Don't lose that artery. The wounded SEAL captain lay motionless on the table, chest wrapped in blood-soaked gauze, skin pale but tight with resistance. Even unconscious, his body fought, like it didn't know how to quit. The lead surgeon wiped sweat from his forehead. "I've operated on combat wounds before," he said sharply. "He's strong, but strength won't save him if we don't stabilize this bleed." Outside the OR, the hospital changed. Phones rang nonstop. Security tightened. Administrators whispered urgently near the elevators. And in the hallway just beyond the chaos, the quiet nurse stood alone, hands clasped behind her back, eyes forward, listening. She heard everything, the pitch of the alarms, the rushed commands, the hesitation hidden between words. She knew that sound, the sound of control slipping. A junior nurse rushed past her, panic written across her face. "Why are there soldiers everywhere?" Another whispered. "They said he's high-ranking." Like, really high. The quiet nurse said nothing. Across the hall, a group of Navy personnel gathered. Clean uniforms, calm faces. One man stood slightly apart, older, sharper, eyes that missed nothing. A commander. He glanced around the hospital once, then again. And then, he noticed her. Not because she moved, because she didn't. Everyone else was frantic, fidgeting, talking, explaining. She was still. The commander's gaze lingered for a fraction longer than necessary. Then the OR doors flew open. "We need blood. Now!" a doctor shouted. "Type O negative. I already sent for it," someone replied. "It's not enough." The lead surgeon's voice cracked with frustration. "We're chasing the bleed. It's not where it should be." That made the quiet nurse's eyes narrow. She stepped forward. Just one pace. A doctor immediately blocked her path. "Hey, stay back. This area's restricted." She stopped, didn't argue, didn't insist, just looked past him, at the captain. The doctor scoffed. "You can't help here." She met his eyes for the first time, calm, focused, unblinking. "I can," she said softly. The word barely carried over the noise. The doctor laughed, actually laughed. "You can what? Hold his hand?" A few nurses snickered nervously. The commander turned his head. The quiet nurse didn't raise her voice. "There's internal bleeding you haven't located," she continued. "Posterior. You're missing it." The room froze. The lead surgeon stared at her. "Excuse me? You're focused on the obvious wound," she said. "But the trajectory suggests secondary damage. He was moving when he was hit." Silence. The surgeon bristled. "And you know this? How?" She didn't answer right away. Behind the glass, the captain stirred. A sharp inhale. The monitor spiked. "He's waking up!" Someone yelled. The captain's eyes snapped open. Sharp, focused, burning through the fog. Pain ripped through him, but he didn't scream. He scanned the room in one smooth motion. Threats, exits, faces. Then he saw her, standing at the edge of the room. The quiet nurse. Time slowed. His breathing hitched. Against every medical instruction, he tried to move. "Sir." "Don't," a nurse warned. He ignored them. His eyes never left her. And then, despite the pain, despite the blood, despite the chaos, he raised his hand. Not shaking, not weak. A salute. Perfect, crisp, military. The room collapsed into silence. Every doctor froze, every nurse stared. The beeping monitors felt deafening. The commander straightened, instantly. Doctors exchanged confused looks. "Why is he?" someone whispered. The captain's voice came out rough but clear. "Permission to speak," he said. The surgeon swallowed. "Sir, you need to." "She outranks you," the captain said, eyes still locked on the nurse. The words hit like a shockwave. The quiet nurse finally stepped forward. She returned the salute, just as sharp, just as perfect. Doctors stood stunned. "Listen to her," the captain said. "Now." The surgeon hesitated, then nodded. "What do you suggest?" She moved to the table, pointed, calm, precise. "There," she said. "You'll find it there." The surgeon followed her direction. A moment passed, then, "There it is," he breathed. "How did we miss that?" She didn't answer. The bleeding was controlled. Pressure stabilized. The room exhaled. The captain's eyes softened slightly. As the anesthesia pulled him back under, his last words were barely audible. "Told you. They'd need you." The quiet nurse stepped back, returned to the wall, invisible again. But now, no one laughed, no one whispered, and no one dared call her newbie ever again. Because the hospital had just learned a hard truth. They weren't in charge anymore. The hospital didn't feel the same anymore. Not after the salute, not after the word "she outranks you." The operating room doors closed, but the silence stayed behind. Thick, uncomfortable, watching everyone who stood there pretending to breathe normally. Doctors avoided each other's eyes. Nurses whispered, but softer now. The quiet nurse stood where she always had. Hands folded, expression unreadable. Only this time people noticed. The commander approached slowly, boots barely making a sound against the tile. He stopped 2 steps away from her and spoke low, respectful. "Ma'am," one word. It carried weight. Doctors stiffened. The lead surgeon cleared his throat. "Commander, with all due respect, we still don't know who." The commander cut him off without raising his voice. "You know enough." He turned slightly and gestured to a young officer near the wall. "Bring the file." The officer nodded and left. "A file?" The administrator swallowed. "Is this necessary?" The commander's eyes didn't move. "It's overdue." Minutes passed. The quiet nurse didn't react. She had lived through longer waits, worse rooms, harder silences. Finally, the officer returned, holding a thick sealed folder, stamped, classified, red-bordered. He handed it to the commander. The commander placed it on the counter and slid it forward. "Doctor," he said. The surgeon hesitated, then opened it. His face changed as he read. First confusion, then disbelief, then something close to fear. "What is this?" he whispered. The commander spoke clearly now so everyone could hear. "Service record, joint operations, medical extraction units, combat trauma response." The surgeon flipped pages faster. "This can't be right," he said. "These dates, these missions." "They're right," the commander replied. "She was there." A nurse leaned closer, eyes widening. Another doctor whispered, "Those missions were classified." The commander nodded. "They still are." The surgeon looked up at the quiet nurse. "You're not hospital staff," she finally spoke. "I am," she said calmly. "Now," the commander continued. Before this, she served with special operations medical teams, embedded, forward positions, no backup. A pause. She stabilized soldiers under fire, performed surgeries in blackout conditions, saved men this hospital would have declared dead. No one laughed now. No one breathed too loud. The surgeon's voice cracked. "Then why? Why is she sweeping floors?" The quiet nurse answered herself. "Because I asked to." Head snapped toward her. "I wanted quiet," she said. "And a place where no one needed to know," the commander added. She turned down promotions, commendations, a desk. The file slid shut. A nurse whispered, "Why?" The quiet nurse looked toward the OR doors. "Because I was tired of being needed only when things were already broken." The words settled heavy. Inside the OR, alarms softened. The captain was stable now, alive. The surgeon stepped back from the counter like it had burned him. "I mocked you," he said quietly. She didn't respond. "I doubted you," he continued. "I ignored you." She met his eyes. "You weren't the first," she said, "and you won't be the last. No anger, no pride, just truth." The administrator cleared his throat. "We should update her badge, credentials, authority." The commander shook his head. "She doesn't want it." All eyes returned to her. "I'm here to work," she said, "not to command." The commander smiled faintly. "That's why they follow you." Hours later, the captain was moved to recovery. Word had spread. Every staff member found a reason to pass that hallway. Some slowed down, some stared, some nodded respectfully. None joked. Inside the recovery room, the captain's eyes opened again. This time, slower. The quiet nurse stood beside the bed, adjusting a monitor. He noticed immediately. A corner of his mouth lifted despite the pain. "Took you long enough," he rasped. She allowed herself a small smile. "You're still impatient." He exhaled carefully. "You saved my life." She shook her head. "You followed orders." He studied her. "They don't know, do they?" She didn't answer. He nodded slightly. "Good." Outside the room, the commander watched through the glass. The surgeon approached him quietly. "She could run this hospital." The commander replied, "She already does." Later that night, the quiet nurse returned to the supply closet. Same routine, same silence. She changed out of her scrubs. Before leaving, she paused, looked at her reflection. For a moment, just one. She allowed the weight of everything she'd been to settle. Then she straightened her shoulders. Tomorrow, she would come back. And tomorrow, the hospital would never look at her the same way again. Morning light spilled through the tall windows of Mercy General. It should have felt normal, but it didn't. The hospital woke up different. Nurses spoke softer, doctors moved with intention, security stood straighter, and everywhere she walked, eyes followed. The quiet nurse arrived for her shift like always. Same plain scrubs, same tied-back hair, same calm walk, but nothing else was the same. A young intern nearly collided with her near the elevators. He froze, then quickly stepped aside. "Sorry, ma'am," he said. She nodded once and kept moving. At the nurse's station, the lead surgeon stood waiting. He had been there early. He cleared his throat when he saw her. "I'd like to apologize properly. In front of my team." She stopped. The hallway went silent. "I judged you," he continued. "I dismissed you because you didn't look like authority." His voice lowered. "That was my failure." She studied him for a moment. Then, apology accepted, she said, "No lecture, no victory, just closure." Later that morning, an emergency came in. Multi-vehicle accident. Several critical patients. Limited beds. Chaos returned. But this time something changed. Doctors looked toward her. Not because she demanded it, because they trusted it. She spoke only when necessary. Stabilize first. Don't rush the imaging. Switch teams. Fatigue setting in. Slow down. And they listened. In the ICU, the SEAL captain watched from his bed. He couldn't move much yet, but his mind was sharp. He saw how they leaned in when she spoke, how arguments stopped before they started, how confidence replaced panic. The commander stood beside him. "She never wanted the spotlight," the captain said quietly. The commander nodded. "That's why she survives it." Later, the captain asked for her. She entered the room alone. "You did this without rank," he said. She adjusted. "His fourth rank complicates things." He smiled faintly. "You always hated paperwork." A pause. "They'll try to keep you," he said. "Promotions, boards, titles." She met his eyes. "I know, and I'll stay," she said, "as long as they remember why I'm here." Another emergency alarm sounded down the hall. Before she could turn, the captain spoke again. "You saved more than my life." She paused. "They'd forgotten what medicine was about," he continued. "You reminded them." Her voice softened. "So did you." That afternoon, a senior board member arrived unexpectedly. Suits, clipboards, power. They asked questions about protocols, about liability, about her. "She's not officially authorized to lead trauma responses," one said. The room tensed. The surgeon spoke up. "She prevented 3 fatalities today." The board member frowned. "Credentials?" The commander stepped forward. "Classified," he said. Silence. The board member closed his folder. "We'll revisit this later." They left. The hospital exhaled again. That night, the quiet nurse finished her shift late. As she walked toward the exit, she noticed something new, a plaque near the ER entrance. Temporary. Plain. It read, "Trauma Response Coordinator. Night shift. No name." She smiled slightly. Outside, military vehicles idled quietly. The commander waited. "You could come back," he said. "We could use you." She looked back at the hospital. Lights glowing. "Lives moving." "I am where I'm needed," she replied. Inside, the captain slept peacefully. The hospital worked better, not louder, not faster. Better, because someone had finally taught it how to listen. Night had fallen again on Mercy General Hospital. The corridors were quieter this time. A soft hum of monitors, faint footsteps, and distant whispers of nurses checking on their patients. The quiet nurse moved through the hall, her steps measured, her presence calm. Nothing had changed outwardly, but everything inside the hospital had shifted. Doctors no longer dismissed her. Nurses no longer whispered behind her back. Even the interns who had mocked her weeks ago now stopped and gave a respectful nod as she passed. And yet, she remained invisible in the way she wanted to. Efficient, focused, purposeful. The SEAL captain was awake now, sitting upright in his recovery room. His uniform had been replaced with hospital attire, but his posture remained impeccable. Military precision in every movement. The moment she stepped in, his eyes lit up with recognition. "You came back," he said softly, almost a statement, not a question. "I never left," she replied, calm, reserved. He smiled faintly. "You should have taken the credit." She shook her head. "I don't need it. They'll remember whether I claim it or not." Outside the room, the commander waited silently. He had witnessed this quiet exchange before, a pattern that always left a room transformed without drama, without noise. The captain gestured toward the door. "They're outside." She knew who he meant. All the hospital staff, doctors, nurses, administrators, stood just beyond the frame, curious, awed, silent. The captain turned to her, eyes serious. "I need to do something before I leave." Before she could respond, he slowly raised his hand. A salute. Perfect. Crisp. Commanding. The quiet nurse's eyes softened. Without hesitation, she returned the salute. Time froze in that moment. Doctors and nurses who had once laughed at her now stood frozen, watching. Some couldn't move, some held their hands to their mouths. The weight of respect and realization settled over everyone like a blanket they didn't know they needed. "You saved me," the captain said quietly, "and in doing so you saved everyone in this hospital from themselves." She tilted her head. "I only do what needs to be done. That's all anyone should ever do." He nodded, impressed and humbled. "You're extraordinary." She looked past him toward the hallway, where the chaos of life in a hospital continued. "I just make sure it's quiet chaos," she said. For a moment they both laughed softly. Then the captain leaned back against the bed, exhausted but satisfied. The commander stepped forward. "Your presence here, it changed everything. Not just for him, not just for the patients, for all of them." The quiet nurse didn't respond immediately. She simply adjusted the captain's line and checked the monitors, silent as ever. The board members, administrators, and even skeptical doctors now nodded, acknowledging her authority without needing it spelled out. For the first time, Mercy General felt like it had a heartbeat that mattered. Not just machines, not just schedules, not just protocol, but human care that ran deep, guided by someone who understood both discipline and empathy. Later, in the hallway, a young nurse approached her. I just wanted to say thank you for showing me what it really means to be a nurse," she stammered. The quiet nurse smiled faintly. "Keep learning. Keep watching. One day you'll know what to do without anyone telling you." The young nurse's eyes welled up. She nodded. "I will." Across the hall, the lead surgeon lingered. He watched silently, a humbled man. Words failed him. He simply gave a small nod. That evening, the quiet nurse returned to her usual station, organizing supplies, checking patient charts, and quietly ensuring every detail was perfect. Outside, the military vehicles were gone. The commander had left. The captain rested peacefully. And still no one spoke unnecessarily. The hospital had learned to listen, to follow without chaos, to respect without needing explanation. As she walked toward the exit, the plaque by the ER caught her eye again. Trauma Response Coordinator. Night shift. No name, no fanfare, just truth. She paused for a moment, took a deep breath. Then, with calm certainty, she stepped into the night. She didn't need applause. She didn't need recognition. She only needed the quiet assurance that when the hospital faced the next crisis, it would be ready. Because she had taught them how to care, how to focus, and how to respect real expertise, even when it wore scrubs instead of medals. As the hospital lights faded behind her, the last thought crossed her mind. "They laughed at me once. They won't again. Not now. Not ever." And with that she disappeared into the night, silent, steady, unstoppable. If you thought she was just another nurse, wait till you see what happens next. Tap like if you respect silent heroes. Comment below, could you stay calm under that kind of pressure? Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss the next unbelievable story.